It is chilly this morning because we are camping in Glacier National Park at the campground at the eastern end of the Going to the Sun Road. The sunrise could have warmed us this morning, except that it is so cloudy, it's foggy and it's drizzly, and it's cold to be tent camping. So we decide to do something different today. Not take a hike, not just drive up to the pass or anything, but we are going to go and visit a chalet, a lodge. We are going to drive up to the northern part of Glacier National Park to Many Glacier Lodge on Swift Current Lake and enjoy a different view on this cool, drizzly day. So we all pile into the van and settle in for a decent drive because there's not many roads in this part of the country. And we drive and drive, kind of feeling like we're not really in the mountains or on the plains. Out to the east is just the flat Montana. After a while, we turn back west and we face the mountains again. And there I can see the rugged peaks in the distance and the rolling foothills in the foreground. We wind our way into the park and we stop partway in because there's this pullover and people are parked there looking up at the lower sides of the foothills here, and we wonder, what are they looking at? It just looks really barren and rocky, like there's this whole hillside of shale, of loose rocks, and a few little scrubby bushes spread across the rocky area. So we pile out of the van and we look and we think, oh, I maybe see something moving. It's not much different color than the rocks, but I think it's moving. So Dad gets it out of his camera with its biggest lens, and we grab our binoculars, and the first two to look through them go, bears! And we go, what kind? Oh, I think it's grizzlies. Whoa. So we all take our turns looking. Dad snaps some pictures and zooms in on his digital screen. And yes, indeed, they are grizzly bears. They're this really silvery gray color, and they have that kind of big hump between their shoulder blades, and they're just stumping along. It's amazing to think that they could ever move fast because they look so slow and so awkward. After watching them for a while, we crawl back in the van among all of our camping gear that we can't just leave out at the campsite because there's black bears around our campsites. So we have all of our food in here. We have our camp stove and our dishwashing, and our all we left back at the campsite was our tents with all our bedding and some clothes in them, and we left our water jug. So in among all of our traps, we set off into the park further. A little bit further on, we see a lot more cars parked along the edge of the road, and we stop and we look out, peering through the windows. I roll down my window on my side and I look out, grab the binoculars and try to focus on the hillside. Oh yeah, this is actually easier to see because these are brown bears, and so they are a little darker in color, and we see them moving along from across between some bushes, and I wonder if there's any berries for them. It seems kind of late in the year to have berries still, but I hope there are so that they can be well fed before they hibernate. As I look through the binoculars, I see, oh, there's something smaller off ahead of the big bear. What is that? Two somethings. And we start laughing. They're so cute. It's a couple of young bears, not babies at this time of year, but very young juveniles. They still look like only a quarter of the size of the parent, and they look a little bit faster and a little bit bouncier, even though they're still kind of clumsy looking. Oh, this is fun and special to see. Eventually, we keep driving and make it in around over a hill and drop down looking into a valley, and we go, wow, that is beautiful. Because not only do we see a huge historic lodge, 5 stories high, spreading all side to side, logs, and just all the construction of it reminds us of Swiss chalets or something. But beyond that is a beautiful lake, a bright blue lake with a glacial runoff. And beyond the lake are mountains, steep, sharp mountains rising straight up from the lake, it looks like, and all green and forested on the lower slopes, and then getting some snow caps up at the tops. So regal, so awesome to think that this is just a little something our Creator put into our world, that He made. Even if it happened just from the flood, He made this world capable of producing such beauty at His command. So we pile out in the parking lot. It's drizzling. We see the mountains through kind of a haze, but we can tell they are so beautiful. And we trot into the lodge to try to stay dry for now. As we enter the lodge, there's this, straight ahead, an amazing sight. A huge platform, maybe 3-4 feet off the floor. And in the center of it is a fireplace, but no walls, just in the center of the room. It has gigantic logs burning inside the screen that's hanging down all around it. The mesh screen is hanging from a big metal cone inverted over the fire. That huge cone collects the smoke and funnels it up into a chimney pipe that just goes soaring straight up and through the high log trusses, purloins, whatever they're called, and up through the ceiling, stories above our heads. Oh, that fire feels so good. We sit down on some benches around the platform and even though the fire is in quite a ways from us, we can feel the rays of heat reaching us and just kind of tickling our faces, and it's so relaxing to sit here and look at the flames dancing and leaping. I pull out a camera and snap a picture across the whole platform with my family sitting on the other side of the fire. So picturesque here. And I look around and beyond them there's something else interesting. It's a telephone booth stuck back in the corner, and it would be the original place to make your calls from this lodge when you were staying here. They wouldn't have had phones in every room at first, I would guess. So I go over and look at the telephone booth, and it is so old, and so the wood is darkened with time and age. And I open it up, and there is still a payphone in here. You can still use this telephone booth. So we use it for a photo op, and we grin and take our pictures at it. And then we walk past the fire platform and look out. There's a whole wall of this huge lobby. Not just a lobby, it's a lounge. The whole front side of this room, gigantic room, is windowed. It is not like a modern steel and glass sort of window feel. It's an old lodge feel with wooden frames and window sills and logs running this way and that. And through the windows, we see that the fog has settled in even deeper now, so we can see the lake and barely see the far shoreline, a little bit darker, but no mountains right now. We drove in at the right time to see them and get a feel for where we are. So right now is not the time to go out and enjoy the outdoors. We're just going to sit out the drizzle for a bit and wait and see if the fog will lift and keep it nice and cozy warm in here, because we had a pretty cold night in the tents. It's quite the adventure and we are enjoying it. So we're warming up and I look around and there's a grand piano sitting at the other end of the room. And I go over and look at it. I can't resist looking at grand pianos. They are such a treat. They're beautiful, and I know that they can make such beautiful music. And I look at it and there's a sign sitting on top saying, feel free to play this piano as long as you keep it quiet and relaxed and respect all of our guests. And my eyes light up and go, really? I can actually play this? And I think, okay, what would I play if I did? And I think automatically Grieg, Edvard Grieg, the Norwegian composer who lived in the mountains. I'm in the mountains. He was inspired by the mountains and by the views and by the folk music of Norway. And what comes to mind right away is the first of his lyric pieces that I had memorized a couple years ago, and I might still remember it. So I sit down on the piano bench and lift the fall board and open up so I see the keys, and they just shine, and I reach out and touch them and feel how smooth and silky smooth they are, the white keys and the shiny black keys. And I look along the length of the piano. I think, what length is this? I think it's definitely not a baby grand. It's maybe a 7-foot grand, I think. So like a small concert size. Well, it's a gigantic room, so it can certainly handle it. And the song starts playing in my head. And as I sit there with my day pack on my back, I just press the soft pedal under my left foot and perch my right foot over the damper pedal and start playing. At first it's almost like a whisper, and then I get a feel for, it can't bother people. I can go a little bit louder so the notes can just sing peacefully. And this song is just so fitting for this time and this place in the mountains, in a lodge. And I just find myself grinning and the goosebumps prickling the top of my head and down my neck. And it's such a special feeling to be here and be making this old music inspired by a similar scene. After I finish this short piece, I just get up and go over to the wall of windows again, and I look out with my family, and there are people out on the shore here. I can see that they have canoes and kayaks available to rent, and they have Adirondack chairs on the deck that is wrapping around the whole front. Not warm enough to enjoy them today, but I do see that the mountain is showing up a little bit more, and the whole lake is clearly visible now. Well, a little bit hazy at the far side, but I can see across, and my family is pointing and looking at something, and they get out the binoculars and say it's a moose on the far side of the lake. There is a moose in the water. We think, we have never seen a moose up close. I wonder, there's a path the whole way around the lake. I wonder if we can get close enough to just really enjoy seeing it with even just our eyes. So we see it has stopped drizzling and we are warmed up. So we decide we are going to take a little hike. We walk out through the doors, the French doors, onto the front deck and find some stairs at one end and walk down those stairs. And at the bottom, right by the lakeside, there's a gravel path reaching both directions along the shore. We decide to walk around to the right first, and just take our time strolling. We enjoy the views of the water and the reeds along the edge, and it's kind of wide open here at first, and after a while we walk into some scrubby bushes and there's a few wildflowers around, and we take some pictures and enjoy the colors of the wildflowers. There's red, like Indian paintbrushes, and there's some beautiful blue flowers and some little delicate white ones. And we keep walking further on, we get into trees. There are pine trees and spruce trees, and they look, some of them pretty tough, like they have to deal with some severe weather here in the winters. But that just makes them even more interesting to me, because trees that have lived through rough stuff are so strong. They remind me of perseverance. And I can see the scars, but in a way that makes them more beautiful, and it makes them more something I can, if it were a person, I could respect and look up to as a role model. So trees can remind me of that. We keep on walking around. We get a couple glimpses now and then of the moose as we're getting closer, but then all of a sudden we can't see it anymore because it's in a bay, and we are in the wrong place to see that bay. As we get to when we look across the lake, it feels like we're in about the right place. We see the whole big front of the hotel lodge spreading out across the lake, and it looks really impressive from here. There's some mountains rising behind it, but nothing like the ones on this side of the lake. And we think, okay, this must be about the place, but we can't see the lake exactly from here, so we decide to strike off the path. There are some side paths going down, and we wind our way in through the scrubby bushes and the tall grass, and pretty soon we come up to some reeds, and it opens up to seeing the lake. And there is the moose. And not only one moose, but two. There's a young moose in the water as well, near the shore, and the parent is out deeper in the water. The knobby knees of the moose disappear as it wades a little bit deeper yet, and its ears are hilarious. I don't know if you call them pear-shaped. They look like big floppy leaves held straight up. I don't know what they look like exactly. And the moose all of a sudden drops its head down into the water, and its whole neck disappears into the water. And we think, what is it doing? Not drinking. And pretty soon up it comes, dripping, this big head and neck, this gigantic nose, bulging forehead, and eyes sticking out on the sides are all dripping and running with water. And in the mouth is a bunch of weeds dangling out both sides of its mouth, and the moose just starts chewing. And it reminds me of how our sheep used to chew their cud. Its lower jaw goes back and forth, and it just starts chewing, and the weeds are it's almost like seaweed it makes me think of, but it's lake weed. So it just starts disappearing and sucking into its mouth with every chew. And we just laugh. It's so funny looking. Its huge barrel body on those little spindly legs just make us smile. Then we watch the little one again, and we know we don't want to disturb the mother, but there are a lot of people along the shoreline here, relatively speaking, maybe a dozen of us watching, and she doesn't seem disturbed at all. So some of us walk a little bit along the shore towards the baby so we can get better pictures of that. The baby's out in the water too, but only to its knees. And the mother just kind of watches, looks around, and then sticks her head into the water again. It's amazing. She has been in this lake for a long time, because we probably saw her first half an hour ago from the lodge, and she's still just grazing the bottom of the lake. And then I see the little one try to stick its head in the water and come up spluttering a bit, and then dive its head down into the water again and come up with a little bit of green in its mouth. He's learning. Oh, this is special. After a while, we decide we're just going to finish the walk around the lake. It's maybe a couple miles around, and the sun is getting a little brighter, not like actual sunshine on us yet, but it's making the fog disappear. The clouds are feeling thin because it's so much brighter. And so we head off further counterclockwise around this lake. The gigantic Rocky Mountains up to our right. We can only get glimpses of them because of the trees we're walking through. At the southern tip of the lake, we come to a bridge because there's an outlet of the lake. We've gone over a few little footbridges and things because along the way there are places that the mountains drain into this lake, and obviously the lake would be flooding the lodge by now if it didn't have an outlet. So there's quite a view as we step onto this bridge and look downstream. There's a little waterfall feel right underneath us, and then it tumbles and gurgles and almost roars down beyond that into a narrow gulch. As we head back to the lodge, we think, okay, we're going to want some snacks. So when we get back to the lodge, we'll probably pull out our granola bars and our apple leather that we make from our own applesauce, and just enjoy sitting in the lodge some more around the fire. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. This is a special day in Glacier National Park.